Hello everyone, this is Karma Draft League draft review. This is going to be awesome, guys. Just to get some things out of the way, I'm super tired. This took actually longer than I thought. Like I put multiple hours in this, and I also had to do stuff throughout the week. So while I was working on breaks, I also did this. So please enjoy. Please don't be mean to me. I took a lot of time doing this. Yeah. Okay. All right. To get started. So first pick we had Mega Gengar. So Mega Gengar was pretty expected to see out of the front. So obviously his team name is Gengar, so that was pretty obvious that that was going to happen eventually. But it's a really strong mon to pick first. Very, very, very powerful. Has a lot of good moves. It's Gen 1. You'll see this brought up a lot. Gen 1 Pokemon have too many moves. Well, a lot of moves. But its broken part is its ability Shadow Tag. It literally locks you in unless you're a Ghost type. You have to sit on the field with Gengar. It, I mean, nothing else to say. Ability pool, perfect. The ability, arguably the best ability in any game ever, as far as like the Pokemon generations. But yeah, awesome, 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 awesome. Great round pick. So Skibidi Scythers with Basculegion. So when you're going second, you have to establish yourself a little bit because you're not quite first, so you can't pick anything you want. But you know that it's going to be a while till it comes back to you because it's Snake Draft. So something like Basculegion is a really solid pick. You'll see it in the metagame right now. Super, super popular. Has Last Respects. Last Respects is a super broken move. Helps clean up games. Wave Crash, Liquidation, Aqua Jet. So many moves out of this Pokemon. Tons of damage. Has adaptability. You do not need Swift Swim. You do not need Rain. You can literally just dish out damage. Really consistent Pokemon. If you watch the Wolf's Draft League, you'll see crazy, crazy potential out of this mon. So super great pick, super solid, and it's also super flexible. You can go in any direction. You could stick this on any team. So great second pick. So we see from Oblock Blipbug, it is Incineroar. So Incineroar, obviously, I don't even need to say much about this Pokemon. Intimidate, Fake Out, no longer has knockoff, but still has the Throat Chop, Darkest Laria against things that have a lot of defense. Really good. It works. Middling speed can go fast or slow. Can work in Tailwind if you want. A lot of things you could do. The ultimate support Pokemon, greatest Pokemon of all time. Obviously, if you pick it, you can put it on any team, literally. Great pick. So we see Whimsicott. So I was actually thinking that nobody was going to pick Whimsicott in this draft besides someone else, which I'll get to in a second. Whimsicott is an insanely valuable Pokemon, hence why it has to be the 19 points. However, a lot of people don't end up picking it because it's the ultimate support Pokemon, but it's hard to always establish because there are other mons that do what it does, just not as well, which people tend to sack points to just have a worse Whimsicott. However, in my opinion, someone who has used Whimsicott a lot, obviously my favorite Pokemon, it is insane. Its move pool is insane. Prankster is insane. It's the only Prankster Tailwind Pokemon in the entire game. So you will always have the fastest team if you want with this Pokemon. Um, really great Pokemon all around. Nothing else to say. Typing is good. Moonblast is great. So we see Archaludon. So I knew this Pokemon was going to get picked up pretty soon. Obviously, great Pokemon. Everyone has problems with it. It has three great abilities. Stalwart, can't get redirected. Sturdy, always lives on 1 HP. So you can go fast and special attack if you want. You'll have to go bulky. And stamina, obviously everyone knows stamina. You get hit, boost in defense. Get to stick around a long time. Usually runs leftovers with that. Tons of great moves. Awesome move pool, by the way. Dragon Steel typing, also amazing. So great pick from here. So we get Mega T-Tar here. So interesting pick round one. It's 17 points, I believe. So not the highest priority. However, it establishes the rest of Mikey's team. So obviously, what's great is you're going to see weather throughout this entire draft. T-Tar has the same ability on his Mega as he does at the base. So what that means is he can get thrown out and do a Sandstorm, and then when he Mega Evolves, he activates another Sandstorm. So if you try to override his weather, he can read this and Mega Evolve and go over it again. So there's a lot of ways you can get around this, and obviously just great Pokemon. Only weakness is 4 times weak to fighting, but it's so defensive. I've seen it live some crazy things. So great foundational Pokemon for a team. So we see the first, besides Whimsicott, true support, like barely any offense Pokemon. It kind of just clicks Rage Powder, has Trick Room, Life Dew. Machagacha's a broken move. Spread move, can burn, heals itself, insane. One of the few. actual redirection Pokemon in this entire format. And also its ability Hospitality is insane. 25% health just healing right off the bat, just off switch in. Great if you want to support a Pokemon that's setting up, or if you just want to make sure you live something. Great Pokemon to always switch in. Its typing is also pretty solid. Grass is like, obviously there's no Spore in the format, but just being grass type is pretty good, especially into the water types that are pretty prevalent, and into rain teams, things like that. But overall, great pick. And then, so we see a really big hitter. I'd say the big hitter since Gengar. This is, everyone knows this Pokemon if you've been paying attention to Pokemon Champions. Insane damage output, really strong stats. Obviously, its HP stat is low, defense could be higher, but its special attack is insane, the speed is insane, the special defense is insane. Obviously, an insane Pokemon. It has Fairy Aura, it literally just clicks Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, can click Calm Mind, just clicks Fairy moves, but it does it very well. So that kind of rounds off the first round. So you can see here, just kind of recap on round 1. I think it's kind of the most important round, or unless you say the next round is most important, but the first 2 rounds are obviously most important. You get to establish your team, the kind of direction you're going in. We see a lot strong picks. There's not a single bad pick here, in my opinion. All of these are just really great. They help you point yourself in a direction where you want to go. And it also establishes it to where, hey, I kind of need this Pokemon for this team to work. I got to grab it now. So great picks all around. Good job, everyone. So it's Snake, so it's going back to Arad. Arad takes up Aerodactyl. This Pokemon is a monster. Super fast Pokemon. Has access to Rock Slide, to Wing Beat. Tailwind is the main thing. It is a great Pokemon. You see it super often right now in Champions. Nothing can't really be replaced, quite frankly. And it also can run Focus Sash, so you can run max attack, max speed if you want. So really strong pick. And then we get Maushold. So this pick was a little interesting. So they grabbed Sinistra and then Maushold back to back. So that's both the best redirection Pokemon in the entire game. Obviously, Maushold can be offensive with Population Bomb and Wide Winds. But, really strong support duo. However, it does mean that they have to sack on the strength of their big hitters unless they can find a way to get themselves back in. So we'll see how that goes in the future. So we see Gholdengo. This is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. I've brought him to the most regionals out of any Pokemon that I've brought. He got nerfed in Champions. Make It Rain now drops special attack by 2 instead of 1. And it also is 95% accurate instead of 100. But it's still very strong. Still does what it wants to do. Clicks Nasty Plot, sets up. Also, insane move pool. It's got Power Gem. It's got Steel Beam. It's got Thunderbolt. It's got all the moves you want. I believe it has Focus Blast or Aura Sphere, one of those two, or both. Insane moves pool. Great overall stat distribution is really solid. And just great Pokemon all around. Like, honestly, one of the most solid, this mon will always be good in every game type of Pokemon. So we see Grimmsnarl. This is a monster of a pick. He obviously got nerfed because he lost Thunder Wave. However, it is still broken. Especially, I want to preface this is a closed team sheet format. You guys have no idea what everyone is bringing into your matches. Grimmsnarl has an insane move pool. It's got Spirit Break, Foul Play for offense. It's got both the screens, which, you might see coming a lot, but it has a ton of status moves. Plus, it has Prankster. And you're also going to see some crazy moves out of this Pokemon. It also has Fake Out. That's another thing that you're going to mind game every game against this Pokemon. Is he going to click Fake Out, or is he just going to set up, right? Monster Pokemon. And then we see finally, Mega Charizard Y. Everyone was kind of expecting it to get picked eventually, and it gets picked on the person who has Whimsicott, which is just a monster duo. You could reset up Sunny Day if you want. You get Tailwind priority. This Pokemon is a menace for a reason. Obviously, it's 4 times weak to Rock, but to be honest, if you set yourself up correctly with a lot of these teams, it doesn't even matter. You just tear through teams with this Pokemon. So, obviously, it's the best Pokemon in the entire format. Hands down, uncontested. So we see Sneasler. So Sneasler along with Incineroar, double Fake Out duo. We saw this pretty early in Reg A. Not as much Reg B, but still a really strong Pokemon. Everyone knows Unburden, double your speed, fast Pokemon. It's got Dire Claw. You can also do Poison Touch. So that means you don't have to do like the Dire Claw rolls. Close combat, super obvious. You get a ton of moves on this Pokemon. I think it's like Rock Throw is like the rock move for Charizard that you use. Um, Sorry, as I was saying, so Rock Throw is the move that it gets, and it gets like Throat Chop. It gets a ton of moves. You'll see you even gets Acrobatics if you want to run that move. It also gets Coaching to set up other Pokemon. So obviously, just amazing Pokemon. Everyone thought it was broken forever. So finally, we see Kingambit. And just like his name, the king of the format. Quite frankly, he's on 70, I think 72% of the teams overall in like all the tournaments. He's just insane. Defiant is an insane ability, obviously against any intimidates. His speed stat is kind of middling to where he can be good under Trick Room, and he can also be used under Tailwind if you set your speed right. He has Kowtow Cleave, Sucker Punch, Iron Head. You know, the Black Glasses is insane. You can go Choppleberry to reduce the fighting weakness. You can go Focus Sash. There's a lot you can do on this Mon, but honestly, he just clicks the same moves and does a ton of damage. There's nothing to stop this guy in the format so far, quite frankly. And then finally, to end off round 2, we get Tyranitar. So, base T-Tar, still awesome Pokemon. He has an insane stat spread. You know, obviously the pseudo. He's got great moves. You know, he has access to low kick. He has knockoff. He has rock slide. He even has breaking swipe. And of course, he sets up the sand. If you want weather control, he is a great guy to set up. So obviously, great pick. Everyone knows how great and consistent T-Tar is. So this is round 2. So we see obviously more establishing picks. We see people trying to go more into a direction of where they want to go with their team. And a lot of the important things that you'll see are duos. Duos are very important. You've got to establish what Pokemon work well together. We see, similar to how Skibidi Scythers picks up Kingambit, it counters, you know, the fighting weakness gets countered by the Ghost Basculegion, right? And we see the same thing on T-Tar, 4 times weak to fighting. Ghost Gengar, you know, double fake out on the Sneasel. We get Whimsicott plus Megazard. We get Grimmsnarl plus Argaludon. You know, we get all these bulky Pokemon. You know, even Golden Go T-Tar again, right? Ghost 4 times weak to fighting, and then Ghost weak to fighting on the Maushold Sinistcha, and then we also see Aerodactyl with Mega Follett. So obviously, great duos all around. Great round from everyone. So we see back to Paul again because it's Snake, like I said. So we see Talonflame. So Talonflame, obviously an amazing Pokemon. It's basically Prankster Tailwind in a way, as long as you don't get hit. There's a lot of things you can do this Mon. You could do Brave Bird. I believe it gets to Wing Beat, and then actually no, I know for a fact it does. I know it gets Steel Wing. Doesn't really use Steel Wing ever, but it has it. Most of the time, you're just going to be clicking Tailwind. However, there's also a really good set where you click Swords Dance. This was used by Wolf to get second at the, I believe, Indianapolis. But really great Pokemon. You'll also see Talonflame on that same Wolf team was also used with T-Tar. So, good pick overall. And then here it is, Mega Aerodactyl. This is a good Pokemon pick because obviously it's not as flexible item-wise as regular Aerodactyl. However, the stat increase is worth it. And also, you don't even have to Mega Evolve this Pokemon, but Mega Evolving it is a great option every time. You know, you don't know what he has in the back. You know, if he has another Mega, he may Mega this guy. You have no idea. So, great pick. It's got Tailwind. It's got Wide Guard. It's got Rock Slide. It's got Dual Wing Beat. It's got all the moves it needs to be good. Great stats. Insanely fast. Fastest Pokemon in the format. So, great pick. And then finally, we see Farigiraf. So, Farigiraf puts it more in a direction. Farigiraf has one of the best abilities in the game. You know, it's Armor Tail. It blocks all priority directed on it or its partner. It has a really good move pool overall. A lot of the Psychic Pokemon just have tons and tons of moves. Like, obviously, the biggest thing is Trick Room, right? It's going to set up Trick Room. It can imprison other Trick Room users. It has a ton of moves. It's got, you know, the obvious Psychic. It's got Twin Beam to get rid of those Focus Sash users. It's got D-Gleam against Dragon types. Not a ton of damage, but it's got D-Gleam. Hyper Voice is obviously a more consistent spread move. But overall, amazing Pokemon. Has Helping Hand. Great support. You can use it on any type of team. Great Pokemon. So, Garchomp. Garchomp is a monster. He just got Life Orb added to him, and he's been doing better, even though he was already top 3 in Reg A. So, and we know that if you watch any Reg B or Reg A, it's Garchomp, Whimsicott, Megazard Y. He somehow cut all 3 Pokemon. insane pick. Has a great move pool, but honestly, gonna be cooking the same moves every game. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna be cooking the Dragon Claw, the Rock Slide, the Stomping Tantrum, the Earthquakes, maybe a Poison Jab here and there, but insane damage output, insane ability in Rough Skin as well to chip off any Focus Sash users. Great Pokemon. So we see Pelipper. Everyone knew this was coming. It was gonna be Pelipper or Politoed, or maybe both. You pick up Arcaludon, you're going to see the Pelipper, you're going to see the Politoed, one of the two. This one is a little different than Politoed, a little less bulky, but you got the Tailwind speed control for the rest of the team. It's got Wide Guard, it's got Weather Ball, it's got Hurricane. Great Pokemon, not much else to say. Finally, here is the Mega Staraptor of the Brave Birds team. This Pokemon is really exciting. There's a lot you can do with it. Obviously, the most consistent thing is just clicking close combat, but it also has Tailwind if you don't even want to Mega Evolve it and you want to go supportive. There is some counterplay to the Pokemon. If someone clicks Swagger on it, it'll drop its stats. Not many Pokemon always have that option. There are ways to stop it, but overall, it can take over a game in the right thing. It's close combat, super bulky, impossible to kill. It's got really, really good ways to do this, and I think it's just overall a scary mon in the right setting. Might be a little weird to set up, but once you get it going, it's unstoppable. We see Rotom Wash. So another super, super great pick as a Pokemon. Little interesting in Doki's draft. So Mousehold, Sinister, Rotom, there is zero power on this team. I'm just going to say it. There's so much supportive energy here. They're such great Pokemon. You really have to establish the power, though. And that's what we're going to have to look for in the future. But obviously, more on the Rotom pick, it's great. Levitate. It's got Discharge, Volt Switch, Electro Web. Obviously, the Hydro Pump, it's got Will-O-Wisp. I believe it can set up Light Screen and Reflect. Great Pokemon. And to finish it off, we get Metagross. Metagross, this is not the Mega version. This is probably, it's probably going to run like Metal Coat or Life Orb. But great Pokemon, been a staple for a long time. Even when they did Gen 4 VGC in like 2009, it still had a lot of play just because its move pool is really good. It gets like random moves like Earthquake, like Bullet Punch, Meteor Mash, Psychic Fangs. Great moveset overall. There's not really anything this Pokemon doesn't do that's good. It just hits really hard and is really efficient. So this is a summary of round 3. Overall, very, very good picks. I think the most questionable pick is the Rotom. I'm just going to say it. You got to start getting power, and it feels like falling behind a little bit so far. But we're going to have to see more on the follow-ups. We'll see in the draft. We got speed control coming out from 4 of the... You see birds right there. 4 birds. They're all trying to set up some type of speed control with these Pokemon. And then we also see Farigiraf with another speed control. Garchomp trying to lay more into the heavy power. Same with Metagross, but we'll see as the teams continue. So back to Arad. So we see Mega Sceptile, and I love this pick, quite frankly. It's kind of obvious its game plan, but it's really unique. It's like Arad was like not afraid to pick this Pokemon, which I really admire. I think if you like your Pokemon and you want to make it work, you will always make it work. And I think feeling comfortable with a Pokemon is more important than a Pokemon being strong sometimes. And I think if he gets comfortable with this Pokemon, you might see this thing take off. So I'm super excited to see this. Hopefully does awesome with this Pokemon. Mega Blastoise. So I was saying power. Here's some major, major power. Obviously you have, you get Fake Out on this Pokemon, which is something that's great. But also you get the Water Spout. But also its move pool is insane. It's got like Aura Sphere. It's so many of these crazy, crazy high power moves to where you'll just see it, it's Blastoise. It is just one-shotting things off the board. It will be insane. If you get it in the right board position, it is just going to be taking KOs like nobody's business. Also, its speed stat seems weird, but it works under Trick Room and Tailwind. So it's like it can work in either situation, which is like really advantageous because you don't know what it wants to do. So really, really, really good pick. Excadrill, we saw the Mega T-Tar. It was going to come eventually. Something to stack on the Sandstorm. Excadrill is an amazing pick. It's Mega not so great because the main one, you want to really run Focus Sash on this mon. It gets one shot by like everything. But it has a great move pool. A lot of the time it's like not Headlong Rush, but High Horsepower is more consistent. It gets Iron Head. You're not using Dig despite what it looks like. Rock Slide is a good move. You know, its moves are pretty standard, but you know, double speed under sand instantly, right? Instantly you get this. So really good powerhouse Pokemon. Good to establish this. It's 13 points, I believe. Might be a little early to pick it, but you know you want to make sure you just get them on, right? Especially after someone else picked a regular Tyranitar, you want to make sure that it doesn't get back to them. So here is Ghetto Garantita's first Mega Pokemon. So already established rain, you know, Pelipper, Arcaludon, right? And even Grimmsnarl with screens, you got a stack on this rain, right? And this is Mega Swampert. This is a monstrous Pokemon to get Swift Swim, but it does more damage than people think. I've seen this thing click Wave Crash in the sun and still do insane damage. You know, its move pool, obviously, it's pretty good. It gets like Ice Punch as well, Earthquake. It gets, I believe it gets High Horsepower as well, is like the main ground move. But overall, just great. And even if you get Tailwind plus Whip Swim, nothing's beating this mon. Here's Annihilape. So Annihilape is a little interesting. You can do beat up Annihilape with Whimsicott as opposed to Mousehold, which is something that I tried back in Reg H, I believe, in Scarlet Violet. So it did receive a 2 nerfs in this Reg. So it no longer gets Final Gambit, so you cannot click Choice Scar Final Gambit, which is honestly a good thing. Would have been too good. And then also, when you switch out, you lose your Rage Fist stacks now, which is kind of unfortunate. But if you're just trying to sit there, click Bulk Up, Rage Fist up, try to do a bunch of damage, you know, a lot of the time you don't really swap out Annihilate all the time. So still a really good mon. Most of the time it's just going to be having Rage Fist, Close Combat, or Drain Punch. But, you know, really good at what it wants to do. If it gets set up, if you just sit there and play passive, this mon is unkillable. So, great. Torkoal. So we saw the Farig. We gotta know, what are we doing under Trick Room, right? Could it be doing Mega Crabominable, you know, Mega Mawile? What would it's the Torkoal. So Torkoal, slowest Pokemon under Trick Room that actually does damage. You know, there's a slower Pokemon but doesn't actually do damage. Trick Room Sweeper standard, right? Also sets up the sun. You got to get some weather, right? This is a great trio between Ensign, Farig plus Torkoal. You can Fake Out plus Trick Room. There's a lot of great ways to set up Trick Room with this core. Also, the sun helps out Ensign do damage himself if he wants. So you see this with Trick Room teams a lot. Really great trio on there. Torkoal finishing out that Trick Room mode. So great pick from that. So we see Mega Garchomp. So obviously Mega Garchomp is not a good Mega. Honestly, one of the worst Megas ever. It gets slower, you know, it gets a little bulkier, but main thing is it gets slower, and Garchomp does not want to be slower ever. You know, maybe if you go against Trick Room, but even then you're not even slow enough to do anything under Trick Room. So the main pick here is that regular Garchomp was already taken, so you lose access to Life Orb, but you can just be regular Garchomp with the possibility of a Mega if you want. I believe at Indianapolis, I think Mega Garchomp even still got top 12. Like, I believe the Battle Room YouTuber like put against it and didn't even notice that it was like Mega Garchomp and he just Mega mid game. So it's like an option that can kind of surprise people. I think like in the whole tournament, probably only going to Mega Evolve like twice. But, you know, Garchomp is just a monster. Um, and it completes a really good core. A lot of these teams you see currently in the common metagame, it's Garchomp, Basculegion, and Kingambit. Finishing this out, maybe a little weaker without Life Orb, but still going to be a really consistent Pokemon here. And to finish off this round, it is Corviknight. So Corviknight with T-Tar is an amazing duo. You don't take any chip from Sandstorm. You also provide speed control with Tailwind. You can also set up with like Bulk Up plus Brave Bird and Body Press, or you could just do Iron Defense plus Body Press plus Roost. Just sits there, sets up, clicks Tailwind. Also has Mirror Armor, so if you try to intimidate it, it'll throw it back at you. Great Pokemon all around. So this is round 3. These picks were still obviously really good. I have to commend the Roly Poly Togeys for picking it up. They needed power, and they picked up the big tank. So that's obviously a great pick from them. I think Torkoal is great for the Trick Room mode. Garchomp is good to finish out that trio that we see a lot. Mega Swampert is some great physical power that Dom's team needed. Excadrill is great with the T-Tar. Corviknight is great to finish his T-Tar mode as well. And I really like the Sceptile pick. I think it's really unique and people aren't super adjusted to it. So I think it'll surprise some people in what it can do. Annihilape, we're going to see how it performs. You know, it could do insane some games, some weak little other games, but we'll see. All right, so back to Paul again. And we see Tinkaton. I don't like this pick. Actually, it is a good pick. It is a great pick. However, it does feel weird with Corviknight. You're starting to stack steel types. Um, but it's really good with Gengar because you click Fake Out, and this is something that was kind of more invented in Reg G and Pokemon Scarlet Violet. It was Eternatus. So you'd click Fake Out and then click Sludge Wave next to Tinkaton. And Tinkaton steel types are immune to Sludge Wave, which is obviously like kind of the play there. But Tinkaton is honestly a really good Pokemon. Gigaton Hammer just does crazy damage. And obviously Fake Out support is great. Also gets access to Helping Hand, I believe. Um, but the problem is Tinkaton hates Corviknight. And this is something that's going to come into play. I think, if he throws out Corviknight into Tinkaton, that's going to cause some problems on the field. They might start fighting each other, might be upset. So, I mean, honestly, an L captain to even put them on the team together, like, that's just a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to do. I mean, L trainer, to be honest. Um, Sylveon. In my humble opinion, this is the best pick in the entire draft. Sylveon is an insane Pokemon. I would say if someone picked up Mega Gardevoir, that would be the best pick in the draft. Nobody grabbed it for some reason. I think that mon is insane in a draft format. But Sylveon is an insane Pokemon. It does so much damage. It's Mega Follette, but you don't need a Mega. Obviously, it does less damage, but it's so consistent. It literally just clicks Moonblast, Hyper Voice. It gets access to Hyper Beam. Can do Quick Attack if it wants. Can do Calm Mind. I think as Baton Pass if you want to do that. Um, you know, Micah's team needed a special attacker. He's got 3 physicals, and this is a great pickup as a special attacker. You're looking down the list. You're saying, hey, what high point special attacker is? There's Primarina and Sylveon right there, right? And I think since you already have Basculegion, Sylveon is a pretty obvious pick and great pick all around, obviously. Sableye. Monster. Very similar to Grimmsnarl. Fake Out, Screens, Rain Dance, Sunny Day. It gets access to Quash, which makes the moves go last. Not much to say here. Amazing, amazing Pokemon. Gonna leave it there. Mega Raichu Y. I was hoping someone picks up one of the Raichus for sure. Fake Out, it obviously gets the Focus Blast, and then plus Zap Cannon. Instant paralysis on any Pokemon. Also, you can click Discharge next to your Garchomp on this team. It's a great mode to have next to Zard because you just have crazy offense power with both of them, and you're making your opponent guess which one you're bringing. So I actually tried this early Reg B, this duo. I actually found it to be pretty successful. So I hope to see it perform well. Obviously, I'm a big Pikachu fan, so it's low-key just Mega Pikachu. So hopefully it just does great. So we see Mega Venusaur. So this is double Megas back-to-back after the Swampert. Venusaur is great with its defensive core. Obviously, you get to stay alive forever. It has Thick Fat, so even though it's weak to ice and fire, it still has the damage anyway, so it doesn't actually matter. Also, under the rain, fire literally does no damage to this Pokemon, despite being a grass type. It gets like Giga Drain, Energy Ball, Sludge Bomb, great move pool, Earth Power. But it also gets Leech Seed, which is something that I'm going to look out for. Hopefully he does this at least one game against the team. You can put up screens, push Leech Seed. That's going to be a monster, and I hope to see that. You know, love Venusaur. I think underrated pick. I think if anyone's going to pick it, it was going to be this team. Houndstone. So committing a lot more to the sand mode. Houndstone is a great partner for T-Tar. It also gets the broken move Last Respects. This thing is probably going to sit in the back and just click Last Respects to clean up, and it's going to do its job great. It has great moves. It has Howl as well to set up Pokemon. Like if it wants to set up Excadrill or T-Tar next to it, really good idea. But yeah, also make sure you just don't click Howl next to Megastaraptor. It's probably just going to lose its attack. A little awkward, but yeah. Mega Barbanacle. So needed some physicality on this team. You pick up the Mega Blastoise, you got to pick up some physical mon on this team. And I think Barbanacle is an underrated pick for 10 points, I believe it was. It's rock and fighting now, drops that water type. It gets, crazy rock slide damage. Its attack set is really high. Obviously, close combat, insane damage on this Pokemon. His moves are actually pretty good as well. Decent move pool, hyper offense. It's not super bulky. It has good defensive stats, but it's like actual typing is not great defensively, but it's amazing offensively. So I think it's a really good pick because you have it next to the Sinistcha household, so you can keep it alive while it just dishes out crazy damage. Finally, we see a Rotom. Mega Sceptile's ability is Lightning Rod. It boosts its special attack whenever it gets hit by an electric move. And I think clicking Discharge on a Mon is just necessary next to that Pokemon, just to even have the option on your team. Even if you never bring it, keeps your opponent guessing. Also, it has access to Overheat, which is just a great offensive move if you want to click it. Volt Switch for switching out after a possible Overheat. It also gets Electro Wave, I believe. So, great Pokemon. You'll see it all the time. If you ever see a Rotom, it's Rotom Wash or Rotom Heat for a reason. These are the two best Rotoms. But yeah, that'll finish off this round. So, recap. We see the more establishing in the directions. I think all of these picks are really good. I do get a little concerned with the Houndstone pick. I think it's great, but I hope to pivot away from Sandbit here because you have to consider Weather Wars. If you don't have Sand up, the team kind of crumbles here. So you got to really figure out to start pushing towards a mode with whatever points you have that isn't just Sand. Really like the Raichu pick. Was hoping to see it from someone. However, really expensive. We're starting to see that Skibidi Scythers and Pidgeotos are starting to run out of points here. Blipbug as well. Sableye is not cheap either. So those three teams were just stacking power early. So we're gonna have to see the rest of the draft goes for them. So back to a Rod, and here is Mr. Rhyme. So at first I thought this Mon was just actually like I used it in my Sword and Shield playthrough, but I didn't actually know what it did. Looking more into it, it's honestly the best sleeper pick in the draft. It has Fake Out. I believe it actually has the ability to set up screens. It does like no damage, so I wouldn't even look at it for that. But its ability, it has, I think it's like Window Cleaner or something like that. Um, and what it does is when it enters, it eliminates screens. Um, Really weird ability, but it will work in a game for sure. Like definitely. I think this pick is kind of funny, but it's low key a snipe because you're going at it early and you're saving points and you're taking it from other people. And I think its move pool is insane. We see Hisuian Typhlosion from Roly Poly Doggies. Obviously, more hyper offense. We see, obviously, it's just going to click Eruption, maybe Choice Scarf, Shadow Ball. It has access to Solar Beam if you somehow set up the Sun. I think it might have Energy Ball if I recall. It has like the Infernal Parade move. It doesn't really do that much. It's not that great, but Pokemon just really solid for its point value. You just throw it out there, does damage, does its job. We see regular Gardevoir. This is a great pick. It has access to a lot of moves. It's like I think it's like Skill Swap, which will probably come into play eventually. It's a Psychic type, like I said before, which just gives it a great move pool. Also has access to Icy Wind, which is the team's form of speed control besides Tailwind, which is pretty necessary. But overall, just a solid pick, for its point value. Hydreigon. So a little iffy on this pick. I think it's a little expensive for what the team already has. The team already has a dragon type that's a special attacker, which is Arcaludon. Also, this typing is pretty horrendous defensively. You get destroyed by fighting types. And if you happen to run into a fairy type, goodbye, right? Most of the time, it's just going to be clicking Choice Scarf. It gets access to really good moves, though. It's got Dark Pulse, Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, Heat Wave, Snarl. Really good Snarl user. So I think it'll definitely show out. It's a great Pokemon all around. I just think it's a little concerning because it's going to little override with Arcaludon because it has a very similar move pool. But as an individual standalone Pokemon, great pick. So Heliolisk, this is kind of what I was saying in the previous round. We're starting to get into poverty. Um, there is no points left on this team. Heliolisk is a good Pokemon because it gets Dry Skin, which is good with Sun. But, good electric type Pokemon, you're going to have to fit that in eventually. But however, you just drafted Raichu, which also has Fake Out. But I still think it'll come into play. Look at its move pool. I'm not going to explain all its moves because it just has so many. But there's a lot that it can do that's really random. I was looking at it and I was like, why does it even have this move? But kind of a good pick. If you're looking at its points to value, it's really high. But yeah. Mega Pyroar. So I think this pick is a great direction to go for the team. You have the Tricker mode, and you kind of have to capitalize on the Sneasel a little bit. Sneasel with the Tricker mode doesn't really make any sense, so you have to find a direction to where it's like Sneasel actually works on the team, and you gotta have an outer Tricker mode. And this works great with all of the picks so far. you're able to set up, you know, the Sun with Torkoal or Sableye. You get crazy Heat Wave damage. It honestly just low key does one thing. It cooks fire moves. That's really what it does. But it's a great pick to do that with. I was running this Pokemon a lot, more recently actually. But it's also good with Torkoal. You know, you could even leave it in the back. Like you could do Trick Room mode in the beginning, and then when you're out of Trick Room, toss that thing out to clean up. Great Pokemon. I think this Loki saved his draft. I don't think there was another Pokemon that could have saved it this hard. Sneasel was an interesting pick with the double fake out, but then as soon as you commit to the Trick Room mode, it's like, what does Sneasel do at that point? So I think this pick really establishes Sneasel as a better pick, and it establishes something better than a Trick Room, because sometimes you can not set up Trick Room, right? But yeah, Mega Chandelure. I was waiting for this Pokemon to get picked. I think this Pokemon does a lot for what its points do. It is a little interesting because a lot of Pokemon do something similar. Like you just saw the Pyroar. Also like Charizard does something similar. So it's a little less valuable than those, but it has a really really strong special attack stat. It gets Shadow Ball. It also gets a awesome move pool. It also it works under Tailwind and Trick Room, which is something that Micah could consider. Um, but you're gonna see the Pokemon come out a good amount. And also it's great with something like Aerodactyl because it also has Flash Fire, which is something interesting. But it works with Mega Aerodactyl because you don't actually have to Mega either of these Pokemon. They're still good in their base Pokemon forms. So you can actually bring both to the same battle and still trying to figure out which one you are going to Mega Evolve with what the opponent brings, which switches up on your opponent. And then to finish this off, we get Reuniclus. I love this Pokemon, one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. I'm a huge Gen 5 fan if you didn't know that. This is one of the OG Tricker mods. Back in like 2012 format, this was like low key the guy. You had Audino, you had like Whimsicott, you were Reuniclus. Great Pokemon. Obviously, gonna stick more to the Tricker mode. What's good about it is it sets up its own Trick Room, but it also can be a sweeper if you set it up that way. But overall, solid Pokemon. I'm a little interested to see where it goes in the direction of Paul's team. And I think we'll see that with the next pick, which I'll get into. So just to recap, we're seeing kind of people pick these late game picks. We see Viridian having to struggle in poverty a little bit. But I think every pick has a purpose here. I think at a glance, it looks like Mr. Rhyme Loki is just kind of there for fun. But he actually has some good use. But I think people are starting to get a little confused. But I think the picks overall are good and they will work. And going off the Reuniclus, we get Mega Steelix. So, like I said before, we saw Wolf do well with his team second at Indianapolis. And it was Sinistcha. Obviously Sinistcha is on Roly Poly Duggies, but it was Mega Steelix plus T-Tar plus Talonflame. That trio did really well for him, and I think it'll do well here. You're picking up Reuniclus to basically do a supplemental Sinistcha, in my opinion. But this Pokemon is a monster. If you're looking at Wolf Draft League, I think it's like fourth on the most KOs total. Um, but you'll definitely see this mod come out. And then we see Pikachu. So once you start getting lower into points, you saw that Skibby Scythers is low-key just having like poverty points at this point. And you have to start sniping out the low tier picks because you're going to notice that people are going to start picking one picks later on. It's good foresight to have to pick the best one pointers for your team before someone else gets them. Pikachu has Speed Control and Electro Web. He also has Fake Out. It gets one shot by everything. It's not broken. It's not amazing. You're probably not going to see it often. But for a one pointer, it does its job. Alakazam. So Alakazam is an interesting pick. I believe it was 5 points. You're kind of going more for the out of Trick Room mode. It is an insanely base fast Pokemon. I think it's like 192 or 193, one of those two. But it's a Gen 1 Pokemon and a Psychic Pokemon. I think it low-key has like 100 moves or something. But, super fast. It's also like an Expanding Force user if you can set that. There's no Indeedee in the format, but if you can get Psychic Train up, it's good. It gets like Focus Blast to cover for the Dark types. Believe it has Dazzling Gleam. It has a ton of moves. I think it's Skill Swap, obviously. But there's a lot to get out of this Pokemon for 5 points. I think you're going to see this thing picking up more than more than a few KOs for its point value. So we get to see Toxicroak. So this is basically Budget Sneasler. It's the same typing. You kind of have to rely on Gunk Shot, which is a little inconsistent, but it's great. Also has Dry Skin, similar to the Heliolisk pick. It has Fake Out as well. Not much to say. I think believe it has Sucker Punch access as well, but solid Pokemon. Here's Luxray. We're losing the plot a little bit here with this Pokemon. I think this was just thrown here because Luxray just is like Dom's favorite Pokemon or something. I have no idea. As Intimidate, it does nothing else. I think it's like Helping Hand. I don't even think it does Speed Control. I think it does damage, but I wouldn't ever bring this Pokemon up in my opinion. But it looks cool. Yeah, you got that. Spiritomb, awesome pick. Spiritomb, saw this Pokemon in like a video like recently, and I was just like, this Pokemon's got tech. It's got Will-O-Wisp, it's got Trick Room, it's got Foul Play, it's got Shadow Sneak. I believe it has Snarl as well. I think it can also set up screens. I'm not 100%, but I believe it does. Its move pool is pretty intensive. Also, it's only weak to Fairy. There's like only like 2 Fairy Pokemon in this like entire draft pretty much. I think this thing's going to stick around, and it's just going to be a nuisance. So I think for its point value, pretty good. Tauros. I don't even know what this does. My dad likes this Pokemon. I think Tauros is kind of cool for that. Um, Ash has like 100. It's pretty good. Its ability is good. Good move pool. It's low-key a cow though. Ditto. My least favorite pick in the draft. I don't really like Ditto at all. I consider banning this Pokemon actually. I didn't ban it though because then you get into semantics because it's like, oh, would you ban all the boring Pokemon? I just wasn't gonna do it. It exists in every draft league. I'm not gonna ban the Pokemon. I raised it higher than other people would put it because I was hoping that people didn't pick it. The reason why is because part of draft league is prepping, right? Prepping for your opponent, things like that. Ditto literally does one thing. He transforms into other Pokemon. There's no prep. There's no thinking. You're just hoping that you get lucky. I don't think it's good. It gets like one shot all the time. Most of the time, it provides no value to a team. I think it's just kind of weird Pokemon that sometimes comes out a win if you go against like a Calm Mind team or Bulk Up team. Like maybe you throw it out and you just copy all their stats. That's like all it does. You know, obviously it will have value. It will be brought. I think it's kind of lazy, but it's a Pokemon. So I think this is the most interesting round. This is where you start to see, some people establish picks. Some people are trying to find what they can for their point value. Obvious standouts, I think, are Spiritomb, Mega Steelix. Those 2 are great picks. Toxicroak, also great value. I think it's like a decent mon. So here, after the disrespectful Ditto pick, I really like this pick. Mega, or not Mega Kangaskhan. Regular Kangaskhan's a great pick. It's actually great stats, and I also think it's an interesting spot in this draft. So Arad was picking lower tier Pokemon to begin with, like picking up the Sceptile, the Rotom Heat, the Mr. Rhyme, and the Ditto as well. Wasn't really focusing on crazy powerhouses early, but now, maybe we should pick up some physicality on this team. And I think Kangaskhan's a great thing to do that with. You can do Fake Out, Last Resort. You get Sucker Punch. Its abilities are really good. You get Scrappy to hit those ghost types. It also gets Inner Focus, so it can't get Intimidated or Fake Out if you want to run that. Overall, solid pick. I think it's a good spot in the draft because it brings things together, and also you save those points. You might as well spend them on something. Powdon. Sets up weather for the team. Not the right weather for the team. I think this Pokemon is useful in what it wants to do. It actually can trap Pokemon. With I think it's the move. I don't ever use this. It was like Tinglu's move. It's like Sand Tomb. You can Sand Tomb Yawn, so that's something. Decent Pokemon. But if you're looking at point value, it's a actual usable Pokemon, which you won't see for other points. But yeah. Scovillain, another great lower tier pick. You saw this in Scarlet Violet. No one ever really used it except until Koraidon was more prevalent. Even then, it didn't pick up much use. It got picked up by some Japanese players, but that's about it. Mega Skull Villain was doing really good, but then Base Skull and Villain really wasn't. But the ability with this Pokemon is that it's Rage Powder. I think it's 4 points. Rage Powder user 4 points. Why not? I also think it's good with this Raptor. You're starting to set up with close combats. Hey, don't look at me, look at me, right? So it'll help his team set up. He can also go the Dragon Dance set on Mega T-Tar with this Pokemon. I think it really rounds out some supportive units for his team because his team was really hyper offense. So I think using this was really good. Skarmory. Losing the plot again. This guy's picking 1 pointers. I think Skarmory is actually like 3 points or something, or 4 points. But still, just high defense stat. I think this Pokemon will come out into a really physically offensive team. If it doesn't have good special attacking options, you could also just eliminate a special attacker. And then, like, if he's just only got physical attackers, you can just throw the Skarmory out. I think it's like 140 defense. It also has access to Tailwind, which is another option besides the Pelipper if you want to run something more bulky. But, also its typing is pretty good. That's why you see it in singles so often. But, good pick. Chimecho. Levitate does low-key nothing for this mod, but its move pool is pretty good overall. When you're getting down to the 1 pointers, you got to have some foresight on what you could possibly use, and I think Chimecho is just one of those guys. Lycanroc Midnight. It'll probably be brought like once, maybe. Rock type offensive Pokemon. Its stats are not good. It gets Excel Rock, I think. I would hope it does. I actually don't know. It's the worst Lycanroc, but it still does damage. It actually probably would pick up a KO or two for the team. When you're getting down to those 1 pointers, you got to find something, and it's one of those somethings. Chestnut. So we saw the Pikachu pick, which is an early one, but then going back to Pokemon that actually cost points, Chestnut is amazing. A wide guard user. He's got Body Press. He's got Leech Seed. He's also like anti-Shadow Ball. I think it's a really good pick. It also adds the fighting type to Micah's team, which could be used against like those types of Pokemon. Overall, really good pick. I think Chestnut is just a really solid Pokemon. You don't even need the Mega. I think only the Mega version was picked in Wolf's Draft League, but even then, it didn't even have to Mega all the games, and it was still useful. 4 times weak to flying, but crazy defense stats, so you can work around it. Mega Heracross. So this Pokemon is a monstrous attack stat. I believe off the top of my head, it's 185. And that's like base 210 plus but like IVs are always maxed. So monstrous attack, it's gonna put close combat. I think it has like Yawn. I don't think it's gonna be used, but it has Yawn. It has really strong just power offensive moves. Its typing is pretty bad. Its move pool is good, but it's lower tier for a reason. But I think it's you find that game where it works, it's gonna work. Its ability allows Pin Missile to hit a bunch of times. Low key Pin Missile's not that crazy, but I think the close combat 185 is gonna be insane. It's probably just gonna OHKO something that just you don't expect. So I'm excited to see this pick. I like how like it's a weird pick. No one was really expecting it. So hopefully it does well. So to recap off this round, we saw some pretty good picks here. I think the Kangaskhan pick is obviously a really big standout. Heracross is interesting. I think Chestnut is great. I think Chimecho's a great 1 pointer. I think Lycanroc will have use. I think the Hippo, it's going to do something. Scovillain's a good pick. I think Skarmory will come into play. Maybe not every game, but eventually I'm sure it'll find its way. So back to Paul again. So we have Altaria. Altaria has the ability Cloud. Is it called Cloud9? I believe it's Cloud9. So it turns off weather. So this is going to be specific to the weather teams. I think this will be brought. I think it has Tailwind as well. It doesn't really do anything besides turn off the weather realistically. Obviously it has uses, but it's not like insane. But for a 1 pointer, that's crazy value. Turning off weather, that'll shut people down. Gliscor. Really good typing overall. I think I don't see it getting a lot of play. But I think for its points, it does something. I think, you know, if you find that right matchup, it'll figure itself out. Um, yeah. Ampharos, we're we're lost. I don't think a lighthouse could help us find our direction here. Um, I this it doesn't do a lot. It's an electric type for 1 point, which is good. You know, it does damage. It's kind of slow. It has after you, but that doesn't mean anything because it's like slow, and he already has trick room. It has E-web, which doesn't mean anything because it's slow. Um, but you know, maybe it'll come out. Maybe it'll do something. Um, it doesn't even get lightning rod, unfortunately. But you know, I think it'll. You know what? I don't even think it's gonna be played. You know what? I hope he brings it. I hope it gets like 3 KOs. A Molga. So this is a really solid pick, high speed stat. If it gets hit by an electric move, it gets its speed stat boosted. I It has like weird moves. Like it has like energy ball, I believe, for example, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Um, but it does what it wants to do. It also gets E-web, which is good, like a fast E-web user. It also it gets rain dance, which doesn't really do anything for it. Um, but it also gets both screens, I believe. I know it for a fact it gets light screen. Pretty sure it gets reflect, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Um, and then it also gets like encore, which people won't expect, and it gets nuzzle for more speed control. So overall, like for 1 pointer, it's gonna do something. Avalug, we are even more lost than before. It's going to do something, I think, kind of similar to the Skarmory pick. Into high physical teams, its defense stat is insane. Body press can do crazy damage. It gets one shot by like Pikachu, I'm pretty sure. Like it's kind of embarrassing. But it gets sturdy, which is weird because why would you run sturdy on a crazy defensive Pokemon? Um, will it be used? Probably not. Is it usable? Yes. Armarouge. Love this pick. A reminder: this is closed format. Armarouge got some crazy tech in closed format. If you've ever played BO1 online in early Scarlet Violet, this thing was a monster. It has weak armor. You know, it can raise its stats if you like want to U-turn onto it or something like that. You get Heat Wave. You know, you get Armor Cannon. You get Expanding Force if you set up the terrain. It gets like Energy Ball. It has crazy coverage. It also uses Trick Room if you want it to use it. Um, but great pick, solid for its points. Cleavor. Cleavor does exactly what you'd expect. It just does damage. You know, some reason it has close combat. I don't know why every mon gets close combat, but you know this is one of the ones that does. It has Stone Axe, which decent side effect. It sets up spikes, which could break Focus Sash into a little chip. But mainly it just does a ton of damage. That's all it does. But you know it does it very well. You know, just a lot of damage, which is great to see. Arbok has Intimidate, and it's a snake. So we see, you know, kind of getting more into poverty picks here. But I think people are doing a good job navigating what they need for their team, which is good. They're looking at the types they need to pick up. Yeah, I don't have this type. You know, maybe I pick this up. I think the Avalug pick is probably the worst because you just drafted Skarmory. Um, Ampharos is. It looks cool. It's pretty. You know, it looks pretty tough. Yeah. Glalie. Uh, you know, this is Glalie. He like explodes. You know, it's Glalie. Swordpuff. I love Swordpuff. Swordpuff is so awesome. So it has some burdens, so you can belly drum citrus berry, just speed really fast KO things. It also has really good support move set. I think it has Yawn. It might have Encore, I believe. Um, it has like Baby Doll Eyes as well, I think. It has like Calm Mind Baton. I don't think it has Baton Pass, but it has like Calm Mind for some reason. Um, but really, really good move pool. And I think it'll come out eventually. It's kind of hard to set up, but if you get it going, it's going. Um, really, you know, also fun to watch. You know, when you see it, you're like, oh, is Sorpuff gonna do this? But yeah, Fortress. Fortress is a decent Pokemon. It can run sturdy, so that it's 4 times weak to fire. It can still live. It has rapid spin, but that doesn't matter in doubles really. It sets up spikes, which doesn't really matter in doubles. Um, but for like those low pointer, Pokemon, it has good moves, and I think it'll have use. Um, uh, this is the worst pick in the draft. Uh, what does Castform do? I think Mbappe says it best. Yeah. This is just a water Pokemon. There's not anything else to say. Pidgeot, Tailwind. I think it's like the fastest Tailwind user. And like the low. I don't. Yeah, I think it's like the fastest Tailwind user for 1 point. Um, so good spot on that. Lopunny, Loki, a cheerleader on this team. I don't ever see this coming. Has fake out. That's a move. Camerupt. It's like budget Torkoal. You click Eruption but do less damage. Um, it has decent moves, but its speed stat is like terrible, and it's not really a Trick Room sweeper. But you know, yeah. So overall, we're all picking 1 pointers at this point. Um, but Surpuff's not 1 pointer, but still, uh, good picks for trying to round out teams. Looking at the type, like I said, like the Simipour. Hey, I need a water type. Sure, grab it. So this is in a team review. So we see, the Gengars, Paul's team. Um, Overall, really good. If you look at the individual picks, they look a little suspect. But I think if you think more about it, every kind of Pokemon has some type of fit in here. Like Gengar, you might think it was going to commit more to like a Perish Chop thing. It doesn't really have that, but I think it does what it needs to. I think Shadow Tag's really good. I really, really think the adaptation to pick up Mega Steelix was a really good foresight on Paul's part. I think like picking up the T-Tar with the Gengar combo, but then also being like, hey, what if I lean more into like a T-Tar mode, right? And I think that's a good pickup. I think Trick Room's like a good mode. You also got Talonflame, so if you don't want to go Trick Room, you go the other mode. And then Corviknight, obviously great with Sand. And then Tinkaton, great with Gengar. I think Runicle fits that like makeshift Sinister slot. I think Heracross is probably going to come out eventually. When it does, it'll do great. Overall, pretty proud of the draft. I expected some really terrible picks. For a second, I was thinking, this is a one-note team. But, converting with the Mega Steelix, really, really great conversion. Pretty proud of that. So this team is really strong. You have kind of a little bit of everything. Every Pokemon is just strong. There's not like a cohesive, like, oh, this Pokemon does this with this Pokemon. It's more like really strong balance. You have Tailwind and possible Trick Room, not great, but possible Trick Room. Um, but you just have Pokemon that all just do their thing. You can just bring any group of Pokemon together, and you're just like, yeah, this is gonna work. Um, so really flexible team can kind of just bring a lot of moves, a lot of Pokemon. You can just throw whatever you want out, and it'll just low key just do what it wants. Um, but this is gonna be a pretty tough team to beat. Block Blipbug. I know it's Blipbug. Sorry. Yeah. Uh, so this team, a little interesting. I think the Pyro really saved it with the Sneasler pick. The Sneasler's a little weird in hindsight, but I think it actually really works with Pyro. I really like the Torkoal for Rig in Sin mode. Plus Pyro is great. I think Alakazam was a good pickup for the 5 points. I think it was good with the speed. I think Pidgeot was a decent pickup for the 1 pointers. You see a lot of 1 pointers here. I think Sableye is really strong. I'm wondering if it was the best pick on this team in total. I think it's a good pick because you low-key take it away from everyone else. I know it has Sunny Day, which in like screens, which is just good. But I think it can be weird to use sometimes. Um, I think the team has good components. As a cohesive unit, I think it could use help. But I think Nico is a strong enough player to make it work anyways. Uh, Viridian City Pidgeotos. So this is a monster team with just the main early picks alone. So you get Charizard Y Whimsicott. That's enough to low key win. I'm not gonna lie. Like if you set up those two correctly, lead those two correctly, plus the Garchomp, those three Pokemon can probably win the entire tournament by themselves. Quite frankly, I think Pikachu fixes some weaknesses. I think Emolga's a good pick. I think Annihilate, low key, just kind of sleeper. I don't think anyone's gonna pick him except this guy, and I think he's gonna make it work. I think Toxicroak is great. Not a big fan of Heliolisk. I think it'll do something. Just personally, a little iffy on it. I think Chameko probably come out eventually. I think his move pool is good enough to where it's like, hey, this might work in this team. Yeah, good team. So, really, really strong. Like, I think it was looking like the best team initially. Picking up Arcanine, Grimmsnarl, Pelipper, Swampert, Venusaur, those five is just a team. Like, it's not even a draft team, it's just an actual team. And then it's like, Hydreigon, it's like, okay, sure, it's like the sixth Pokemon. I think Hydreigon also has like Tailwind if you want it. Those six Pokemon I think are really powerful in their own right, and I think the team cohesiveness is really, really strong. Like I think they all work really well together. And overall, like they have good move pools as well. So I think it's gonna be a really scary team, high power team, even a little bulky team. You can play it slow, you can play HO, crazy. Luxray, uh, you know, you know, Skarmory, I think Skarmory will be useful. I think Avalugg is completely useless. Castform, yeah. Um, so Brave Birds, really like how this draft turned out. I wasn't familiar with Mikey's experience with the game, and as I could tell, he's definitely familiar with Pokemon, not VGC. I think the team foresight's pretty good. Like I really liked the Golden Go plus T-Char pick. Like he was like, oh, Golden Go is secondary. I was like, yeah, that's a great pick. Um, a little heavy into Sand team, but I think you don't need it with this team. I think the flexibility with the Spiritomb and the Scovillain were really good picks. I think since Mega T-Tar and Mega Staraptor as the Megas were a little lower in points, you were able to have stronger like late game characters that kind of just fill out around. I think Armarouge is a great pick as well. Gardevoir is a great pick. I think Fortress probably never coming, but it still exists. Roly Poly Dogies. Um, Initially thought this was the worst team. No longer think that. Not gonna say who I think it is now. Um, but I think really saved it. I think you kind of have a little bit of overlap with Barbarical and Cleavor, but they don't do the same thing. And also, you can't Mega Evolve Blastoise and Barbarical. Sorry. So you could bring Cleavor instead. I think Sinistcha and Maushold are monsters. I think Rotom is a great Pokemon. I think Typhlosion is gonna have play. Swirpuff, I think that thing is gonna do something. I'm so excited for Swirpuff. By the way, I hope please use it. I love that Pokemon. Um, but also, really consistent player from No Chief. In previous drafts, stuff like that. I know like looks kind of all over the place, but I think if anyone's gonna make this kind of squadron come together, it'll be him. So last team, we have Aerodactyl plus Mega Floette. Really common team, just on the ladder, straight up. Really strong duo. Tailwind, just blast over everything. Mega Sceptile, fun pick. Not, super OP, but I think it's a good pick. Metagross is also a great pickup. I think Kangaskhan is an amazing pick. I think Mr. Rhyme, low key, Smurf pick of the draft. I'm not going to lie. Everyone was clowning on it. Low key Smurf. Rotom Heat, great consistent Pokemon. I think Ditto's a little lame. Also, don't really think it's that useful for its points. Like low key kind of bad buy. I think Arbok is never coming. I think Glalie will come if he is 0-5 and doesn't care. He will bring Explosion Glalie. That's my prediction. Um, but I hope he has fun with this team. I think it's like got quirky components, and I hope like it just like throws people off. So I think it'll be really fun to watch, and hope he has fun with it. Good job, everyone, overall. I was expecting, people to just kind of throw things together or, not really think things out. I really like how people were willing to kind of look into things or, ask like, hey, what can done be done here. I also like how people were thinking more about their picks than just like, oh, this is my favorite Pokemon. I'm just gonna draft with my favorite Pokemon, which could be nice at a glance, but honestly makes draft really lame because what's the point of even competing? Um, but I think everyone did really well. I was really happy to see how teams came together overall. I think if anything though, from now it'll be play. And literally right after I drop this video, I'm gonna be posting the matchups. So good luck, everybody. Hope you have fun. I'm not gonna be helping anybody from here. I'm gonna say that now. If you are asking me, is the CV spread good? I'm not gonna answer you. However, if you ask me, like, what does Trick Room do? I will tell you what Trick Room does. If you ask me, what does this ability even mean? I will tell you what the ability means. I'm not helping you with leads into certain teams. I'm not helping you bring certain Pokemon. But I'm basically a spectator, a useful resource. If you have Pokemon general questions, please use me as a resource. If not Google. Um, but really excited for this. Thank you for the opportunity of hosting this. I'm really tired. Hopefully this video was a little bit enjoyable just to listen to. Maybe you could fall asleep to it, low key. But thank you all, and hope you have a good tournament.